Hello, everyone, and welcome to another segment of the Masterpiece Lounge. I am your hostess, certified life coach, author, and speaker, Chrisnatha DeRozier. I will give you a moment to come on in the room. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if it's your first time, welcome to our safe space where we have insightful conversations that help push our professional and personal life forward. And today is no different. Say hello in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from. I absolutely love coming on each week to share awesome talks with you about really various topics that I think are super interesting. And today is no different. And today I want to talk to all of my aspiring authors, or if you are an author already, but you've been thinking about writing your next book, right? You've started it, you've stopped. You're still trying to figure out some ideas that you have. I want to talk to you. And today's segment is going to be about how to write your book with ease. So whether it's your first book or your next book, we're going to talk about some tips to help you move further along in the process. Because the goal is for you to not be a serial starter, but I want to make sure that you're a strong finisher too. All right. As you know, I am a three-time author, and I've self-published my books, and I've really enjoyed the journey. I've learned quite a bit, and so I want to share some of those things with you today. And so that's what we're going to do. And so we're going to jump right in to some steps on how to write our book, right? How do we do this? Now, the idea of writing a book, if let's be honest, it's pretty scary, right? It's a big to do, writing an entire book. But if you break it down in actionable steps, right, it doesn't seem as daunting, and we can get it done step by step. Sometimes I speak to clients who are so overwhelmed by the end result that starting never really takes place. And so we're going to just talk about what to do. Okay, it is an exciting road ahead, but it could be a little long, but it doesn't have to be super long. So let's start. Number one is to start with your idea, right? What is your idea? What are you writing about, right? So these are some questions I want you to consider when trying to figure out what you're actually going to be writing about. So the first question is, what do I want to write about? Is this a memoir? Is this a autobiography style book? Is this fiction? Is this inspirational, right? What kind of book am I writing? What is this about? And also I want you to consider, what do I feel is important to write about? Why is this significant and why now? Also, who will want to read about this story or this subject? And so this will help you identify who's going to be your audience, your readers, and then you'll know how to market to them later. And also consider, will I be able to carry out this idea effectively? So am I going to be able to really flesh this idea out? So you can definitely start out with something you're passionate about, something you're really good at doing. Maybe you want to teach your readers how to overcome or accomplish something that you have, right? So your answers to these questions will really help you narrow it down to your best options. And that's all it's about, really. That's where you're starting. What am I writing about? And what are some thoughts and ideas? So having a brainstorming session, a mind dumping session, I like to call it as well, is always, always a recommendation of mine. For example, if you have several ideas for a book, right? Think about, what am I passionate about out of all of these ideas? Right? So you just want to think about that. Number two is to research by reading genre prominent books. You got to do some research. What am I talking about? What am I covering in this book? What has been covered already? What's out there, right? And so you just want to educate yourself. Once you find your big idea, the next step is to research the genre, research something about the topic, research the kind of books that have already been written about this topic. What have authors covered? What have they missed, right? Is there a lane here for me, right? And if there is, how can I really make this my own? How can I own it? And so there's so many things to consider. So find out what people are reading, right? Go to Amazon, look at the most popular books, right? That's something that you could do. If being a best-selling author, for example, is a priority of yours, then look at see what are the best sellers, what are the genres, what are the topics, what's the writing style, what's the tones. I mean, you can really dive deeply and look into that if that's a goal of yours. If it's not, then no worries. Number 3 is to outline your story. Everyone writes differently, and so all authors are not created equal. And what I mean by that is we all have a style. Personally, for me, when I'm writing my books, chapter titles come to me first, and then I write. Whereas some people, they write and then they name their chapters after the fact. There is no right or wrong, right? However you get it done is how you get it done. But that's how my brain processes things. And so you just want to think about what's your style when you're writing, right? So if you want to write a great story, definitely I would suggest that you outline it. What is the flow of this? What journey am I taking my readers on, right? So you want to definitely make sure there's some kind of blueprint that you're following. If you have books in your library, in your home library, start pulling out your favorite books and look at the structure of those stories. Look at how they're set up, right? Just so to give you an idea to get your creative juices flowing. Pick a format that works for you. I know some people, they lean more toward poetry, right? Some people lean more toward just storytelling. Some people it's more autobiographical, right? So there's just so many styles. So you want to pick a format that works for you. Make sure you have a beginning, middle, and end. That goes without saying. And consider your conflict points, right? What is the heart of any good book? The conflict, right? So figure out what that's going to be, what you're going to be talking about. If there's characters, will your characters develop over time? What does the character development look like? How do we learn more and more about each person and each story? So there's just things to consider. So keep that in mind. Number 4 is to write the opening sentence. This might sound silly, but it's important. So as we get into the actual writing of the book, there is one book that has made a significant impact on my life. There's many, but there's one that opening sentence in chapter 1, I will never forget. And I probably read this book for the first time about 10 or so years ago. And I still have it in my home library and I open it up every now and again. But that first sentence has stuck with me. It is The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. An amazing book. And so if you haven't read it already, I encourage you to do so. And that first opening line in chapter 1 says, "It's not about you, period." I'll never forget the moment I first opened up that book. And that was the first line. I skipped the introduction. I skipped all of that. And I went straight to chapter 1. The first line I read, it said, "It's not about you." And that set the tone for me for the rest of that book. And so I knew that in reading that book, I was going to have to check my heart because everything I was about to learn, about to take in, I had to remember that none of this is about me. It's bigger than me, right? And so what's going to be your opening sentence? What's going to be that one thing that your readers look at first and say, whoa, I need to keep reading. This is about to be good, right? This is about to be amazing. This is a page turner. Remember, when you're writing drafts. Oftentimes, writers will want to write a perfect manuscript the first time. You're going to go back, you're going to tweak things, you're going to get feedback. It's okay. This is a process. And so we want to make sure that we don't miss anything, right? And so you want to make sure that you are definitely taking advantage of the people's eyes that are going to be on your project, and that feedback is good, right? So it's always good. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so writing your opening sentence, think about what that's going to look like. It's an important part of the story because it's the beginning, right? And so we want to make sure we set the tone. All right, so we don't want anyone losing interest. We don't want anyone getting bored. So we want to make sure that the beginning, we are opening up with a bang. Grab your reader's attention, make it impossible for them to look away, and let them really desire more. Like, what are we talking about here? One of the things that I remember in my very first book I loved to do was my chapter titles were very interesting. And so it made someone want to turn to that chapter to read about it because they wanted to know, what is she talking about, right? For example, my first book, Through the Eyes of the King, Sing Yourself the Way God Sees You, one of the chapters was called The F Word, right? And so people were like, the F word? And then they jumped to that chapter and realized my F word was food. And I was talking about my very complicated relationship with food. But of course, people got intrigued. And so you want to make sure that your readers are intrigued too. One of my chapter titles, I believe, was Always the Bridesmaid and Never the Bride. So that was another one that readers are very interested in getting to, right? So how can we get people excited about what we're sharing? Number 5 is to write the first draft. So I want to just encourage you right now is to just start writing. I know that it can get a bit overwhelming. You're thinking, what do I write? Are people going to like it? I don't know where to start. Just write. There's no right or wrong here. Just write. Remember, this is a draft. We can go back and tweak, move things around. It is a process, but please just write. Start writing. Start writing today. Don't overthink this. We can go back and make it a masterpiece later, but please just write. Oftentimes, a lot of aspiring authors are so focused on the end that we never get the work done in the beginning, right? You can't sell a book if there's no book written to be sold, right? And so write, get it done, get it done. Super important. So just write. It's your first draft. We can go back, tweak, add, remove, revise, all of the things. So remember, every sentence must do one of two things: reveal character or advance the action. Okay, so just remember, depending on what kind of story you're writing, you want to make sure that the pace makes sense, that there's colorful language being used, that your readers can really imagine what's happening. They can paint pictures with their minds based on the words that you're using as you are writing this amazing book, right? Keep your readers in mind while writing. This is important too. So ask yourself, is this a book I would really enjoy and that I would buy, right? If I was the reader. So keep those questions in mind. Number 6 is to set a schedule with achievable goals. This is really important. This is going to call for you. Writing a book is going to call for you to really get a bit organized, right? And so I encourage writing schedules. I know this may not work with some people, but I believe in schedules. You can desire to write a book for a really long time, but until you make space for it in your schedule, till you make room for it as part of your important goals, it could really be pushed off for years and years to come. And so let's start really just getting practical about improving our writing habits, but also making it happen. Whether it is 500 words a day, 1,000 words a week, whatever it is, set a goal, something you can measure. Create a word count goal for yourself. You can have individual sessions with yourself. You have to put this on your calendar. I encourage you to add reminders, but also if there's a writing group, right, that you can become a part of that will hold you accountable to reaching your goal, I encourage you to do that as well. And so these are just some things I really want you to consider and think about, because they're going to really matter in terms of you reaching your goal. And so I want to make sure that you are intentional about it. You don't just say, I want to write a book next year. That's too vague. We need you to be as specific as possible. And so what kind of goal do you want to set for that? Do you want to finish your book? What month of the year? What part of the year, right? When do you want to finish your first draft? Move on to the second draft. When do you want to get to the editing process? How many word count, right? What's the word count for the book, right? And these are just setting some milestones for you. Of course, this can change with time, but you want to have something to work toward, right? And so once again, individual writing sessions are great. Some of us are great independent workers. We work well by ourselves, but I would encourage you too, if you find a group that is also writing, that you can, get into that one as well. So you can do them both together just for accountability purposes, that there's other people that's saying, hey, have you written? How far along are you, right? What's the word count for the month, for the week? So these are just some basic goals that I want you to really start thinking about really putting in place. And if you're looking to really speed up your writing process and you want to be super, super ambitious, which is okay, you can increase the word count, right? So for example, 1,500 to 2,000 word count per session. How many sessions do you want per week? Is it one, right? Which is okay if it is. And so set a time aside, set a day aside to know that you're getting your work done. Establish a schedule. When do I have the most free time each week? What day of the week, right? What time can I block off to make sure that this is my uninterrupted focus so that I can get closer and closer to my ultimate goal, right? And so you want to make sure that you're doing that and that you're tracking your progress as well. Something you can measure. Hey, this week I wrote 500 words, right? Tomorrow I'm writing another 500 words. Next week I'm writing 1,000 words, right? But yeah, block out time. Number 7 is find a good writing space. Now, for some of us, this could be our home office. This could be a very quiet nook, right, that we have at home. For some of us, it's going to the library, or maybe there's a local bookstore that we love that has this really awesome private section where we're not interrupted and we have our cup of coffee or tea and we're really in our creative space, right? Whatever that looks like. A co-working space might work as well, right? You have that space for a time, or you have a separate room for a certain time. Maybe you want to dedicate the entire workday once every 2 weeks and say, I'm going to write for the entire day. This will be my focus. Whether it's from home, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's a library, whether it's a co-working space, whatever it is, find a good writing space and make it happen. Okay, so set the atmosphere for yourself. What do I want this to look like? What do I want this atmosphere to feel like? What do I want it to smell like, right? Like what do I want, right? For example, this time of year, I have my pumpkin spice candle, right? And so when I want to get creative, I'm lighting this candle. I need that aroma, right? And so what does it for you, right? So whatever it takes, make that space your own. So remember, what does a quiet working space look like? For example, it could be a quiet space, right? If you need noise canceling earphones, go ahead and put those on so you don't hear what's going on around you. Maybe a clean space, no clutter, right? Sometimes when we see clutter around us, it can make us have clutter in our minds. Something making a space that's no distractions, right? That there's not a lot happening around us. Maybe we have to put our phone away in a different room, or cultivate and create a space for us that we don't already have. Number 8 is to pick a distraction-free writing software. There's softwares that you can use to help you write your book. There's a few, and I'll let you kind of go and kind of figure out which one works for you. You can use good old Microsoft Word, right? Or there's a software called the Focus Writer. There's another one called Scrivener and Milanote, right? So there's just a few. There's so many. So be sure to do your research and see what works best for you. Number 9 is to finish your draft. As you continue being consistent with these writing schedules and keeping yourself accountable and connecting with like-minded individuals that can also help with accountability, you're now finishing your draft, right? You're wrapping things up. You're going through your book. You're making a list of reasons why you want to write a book, right? And you can also find someone else to write with you. This has been helpful for me in the past. Sometimes there would be people I would bounce ideas off of. So that was also good. I also want to just incorporate this. You have to reward yourself at important milestones. It can be a bit of a journey writing a book. And so if you say, when I get to 5,000 words, I'm going to celebrate with ice cream. When I get to 10,000 words, I'm going to, whatever that is for you, set those milestones and celebrate yourself. You deserve it because it is a big, big feat and you did it. So make sure that you celebrate yourself. And then, of course, number 10 is editing your manuscript. This is something you don't have to do on your own. You can get an editor to do this for you to take that work off of you. And it's always great to have another set of eyes on your work because you might miss something, right? And then ultimately, number 11 is publish your book for readers to buy. And there's many ways to go ahead and do that. So you decide how you want to publish your book. You want to self-publish, all of the things. You can do that. So those are 11 ways to write your book with ease. And I hope that it was helpful for all my aspiring authors. I just want to encourage you to keep going. Don't give up. You can do this. I did it and you can too. It may seem like a huge project. It is, but it's so worth it at the end. I do also want to offer a resource to you. I have an on-demand course that if you are looking to write your next book with ease, this is going to be a game changer for you. And that's exactly the name of the course, How to Write Your Book with Ease. And so basically it's 90 minutes where I teach you an amazingly simple way to outline your next book. We make this really simple. I provide you with a thorough model that's really easy to follow. I have an outline that you can use to help you with the formatting of the book. So there's some templates that are included, as well as a book outline that will help you outline yours. And then there is, of course, the video just talking you through all the tips and tricks on how to start your book, finish your book, write it with ease so that there's organization involved. So it's not as hard, because let's be honest here, whatever it is you're writing, you can turn it into a product. And I want to make sure that you can add an additional stream of income, right? You can wake up to sell notifications if that's what you desire. You can also share with people, teach people, share your expertise with others, right? And so you can pin your story in a really colorful and captivating way. And I want to help you do that. Once again, this is an on-demand course. You have lifetime access. So the moment you purchase it, it is yours forever. So you can go back and watch it again and again and again. You purchase it one time. And so the information is going to be in the description of today's segment, is also in the comments. All right. So grab your course. And I look forward to seeing you same time, same place right here next week. Let's connect on all social media platforms at Chrisnatha. It has been an absolute pleasure. I hope you have an amazing day. And until next time, be well. Take care.